We're alive indeed. ¿Qué pasa, campeones? Welcome to Churros y Tácticas podcast. It is part two. It is Tuesday. It is the 29th of October. And part two, you might ask yourself, what will it be about? Part two of what exactly are these two fine looking gentlemen going to be discussing today? Well, of course, it has to be the Ten Hag firing from Man United. It has to be Kiyan. I
Oh,
don't
I thought
know.
we were talking about the Lakers Suns game last night.
The Lakers Suns,
I'm not
JJ
prepared to
Redick.
talk about Ten Hag.
No, I am. I've got plenty of things to say about that. But hey, listen. First of all, welcome back, Kiyan Sobani. Welcome back, buddy, old pal. Welcome
Thank you.
back, good friend. It's been a long time. We've been missing you. For all of yous that haven't been keeping up tabs with the Churros Patreon page, that is patreon.com/churros y tácticas. It's been a month where I've had to put in a little bit of solo work while Kiyan was busy with book deadlines and travel commitments and pod commitments and then some. He's been on a hiatus. He's recouped his strength. He's back. What a month he has missed, or at least I should say we have missed dialoguing. Of course, he's been on top of things, but so much to get through after a week. Yeesh. Where, well, I don't know, Kiyan. I think it's not an overstatement to say that the momentum certainly is somewhat shifted. And I'm curious to know your thoughts, my friend. I'm curious to go through it. You, the watchers, the viewers, have, of course, heard all of the post reactions. There's the Clasico to discuss. There's the Balón de Oro to discuss. You've heard it all, but you are here today to hear a little bit more and see two gentlemen have a nuanced discussion about all this silliness surrounding the game of football. So what's up, man? I'm happy to see your face again on this pod.
Thank you, man. You know this whole people are in Madrid are melting down. Fans are upset. Fans are angry. I've had questions to me like, "Are you okay? I'm so sorry for this week." And I have to tell you that you'll never catch me upset. These are these moments are actually so beautiful if you really reflect and zoom out. These are the moments that test your fandom. It's so easy being a fan when things are okay, right? That's
Oh yeah.
easy. We all just sing kumbaya, we hold hands, we log on, we say some bullshit about how happy we are, things are great. But these are the moments that remind you like why you're a fan. Like your love actually gets deepened for your team when things are not going well. So that's how I feel. And also I'm just really really glad to be back home because I miss my kids so much. And we're going out to dinner today. We're going to be hanging out. We got a lot to catch up on with the kids. So I'm great personally. And I'm sorry for all the Madridistas who are not great. I do empathize with you and I do understand, but I'm at a stage in my life now that when you have kids, things don't bother you as much. As long as your kids are okay, everything else is gravy, baby.
I
So
like
I'm
that.
good.
I like that very much. How deep is your love? Is your love? That's what it comes down to. How deep is your love? Listen,
But
I
yeah,
think that talking
oh,
about nuance, there you go. It's that's a wrap, I would say. We've got nothing. How's the family? Family good? That's what's
everyone's good.
important in life.
That's
Well,
right.
that is good.
Well,
That
a
is
couple
good.
of things too. I have three things, important things to say. One is congratulations on a great month for Barca. Congratulations on the very deserved Clasico victory. The second thing is thanks for holding down the fort. Well, I've been taking a break from churros. And the third thing is that if I ever leave churros, it's gonna be on a high. It's gonna be like Tony Cruz, Champions League victory, bow out. It's never gonna be at a time
Tony
like
Cruz
this
in the
because
Euros.
that would be so cowardly to leave now. I will never leave on a cowardly bad note. I will leave on a high. It'll be when Real Madrid wins the triple, when I'm like 105 years old, the triplete, then I'll retire from the churros. You
The
heard it
day
here
you guys
first.
will win that. Well, listen, I would never even let you leave this pod on a sour note. I would want to get my fair share of digs into you in before you do.
Go for it.
Because I think all the few Barca fans that watch on Churros, we deserve a
I got
little
to go
bit of.
open the door for someone. I'll be right back.
All right, all right. Well, while Kiyan lets in the stripper, um, that's gonna entertain him while his wife is at work. Let me, bring you guys up to speed. Those of you on this channel, I know you are loyal watchers of Kian's YouTube, but Churros continues. The show does go on my little humble channel called D Spot. Go check it out. That's D for Diego Spot. And of course, the link that you're seeing here in the bottom of your screens, patreon.com/churros y tácticas. That is where I quite literally post everything free and paid for members only. So there's the free tier as well, where I post the weekly podcast. And I'm a little bit slow sometimes uploading the audio. I do have that habit of streaming it live on YouTube, posting it on the Patreon page, and then following that up with the audio. Now that I know that automatically then makes its way on the streaming platforms, that's your Apple Music and Spotify's. But now that Kiyan is back as well, we'll get into a normal rhythm of the uploads and whatnot. But all that being said, I strongly recommend everybody that likes this podcast to head over to patreon.com/churros y tácticas for both the free and the paid content. Kiyan is back. The stripper is getting set up, so that gives us a little window of opportunity for like maybe half hour, 40 minutes before the show gets starting, and
Oh,
Kiyan
keep
gets
keep it
served.
on. Keep it on for now. Keep it on. Yeah, that's yeah. In
Senator,
20
make
minutes.
yourself at home. Right.
You guys,
Senator,
if there's a $50 super chat option, I we'll turn the camera around.
nice. Well, you're ready for your lap dances. Let's go through our. Let's get through the thick of things. I guess chronologically is the best way to tackle this beast with this bull with two horns. There's of course the Balón de Oro that I'm sure you want to discuss on this podcast, and
Sure.
there's the Clasico matter. I think as well. We need to handle a little
There's a
bit.
lot to catch up on.
There is quite a lot to catch up. So, Kiyan, I gave our listeners, our viewers, my take yesterday. To summarize that for you, I felt like it was a tale of two halves. As you once famously quoted me, in I think it was the Koeman era, it might have been in the Xavi era as well. I would have probably used it several times. The team being closer to the 1-0. I felt that in the
Well,
in the
thank
first
God
half
you're consistent with it.
that was Madrid. Well, consistency is my middle name. I think you guys were closer in the first half to the 1-0. There was, of course, the offside traps that repeatedly stunted your guys' offense, but also some bad finishing that let you down, and a stellar Iñaki Peña, who I personally feel very good about because for some fucking odd reason, this poisonous fan base called the Barça fan base, they were already giving him the nickname Iñaki Pena. Pena quiere decir like pity, Iñaki pity, right? For like what reason, you ask me? Maybe some a little bit questionable goalkeeping in that game. I think it was Emeni Cerroza and Alaves. Other than that, I think he's he's been very fine. Not even with that much work to do, I would even go so far to say. And against Bayern and Atletico, I thought he was excellent. Especially, sorry, Atletico, Bayern and Madrid, he was excellent. In the focusing on the Clasico, I thought he had some excellent saves. That save of his life that wouldn't have been a goal anyway, because I think Bellingham was it that finished was originally in an offside, or was it Vinny that I
No,
don't remember.
the Bellingham big chance was onside. I think it might have been an Mbappe. I don't know. There were four
I'm
big
talking
chances
about
that
the
we had.
one like where he like plucks it basically from just before the goal line out of the air and like prevents it from going in. I think that chance was going to be ruled offside. Needless to say, Madrid equal level first half with Madrid having the better chances, and then there was the second half, which was a completely different story.
It's a good analysis. I don't know what to say. I
Well, you were there again. I'm always
yeah.
curious and interested in how stadium dynamics were and how you felt those dynamics change over the course of the
So
game.
I think in terms of stadium dynamics, the biggest thing that you could feel, because sometimes there are just things that you can't explain when you're watching on TV, but like when you're or sorry, when you're in the stadium, there are things that you can't explain to those who are at home, like to like describe what it was like being there. And the thing that I would remember most, more so than like Barca's goals, because that it started to become a little bit blurry to me in the second half. I just knew that our defense was terrible, our body language was terrible, our confidence was zero, and Barca looked like they were going to score every time they had the ball. And then I just have like now this almost vague memory that's blurred in of like Barca scoring and then celebrating on the corner flag, Barca scoring and then celebrating corner flag, and I didn't even know where Real Madrid players were because it feels like it was just open water like festival. Like this is like they had no desire to like stop the bleeding. But the thing I will remember most of being there was that they were just so frustrated with Mbappe all night, and
Yeah.
every single offside or mischance became this like collective like,
So, like,
are
oh,
you serious again?
mm, mm,
You can't be and then I also felt that Mbappe himself felt that
mm,
with each one because it looked like he was just a little bit less confident with each time he was offside or each time he had a scoring opportunity. I was mentioning this to Matt on our post-game Clasico podcast that we did that night, that there was only one moment that I can remember Mbappe getting the ball on the left wing, and like where Vinny usually gets the ball on the left wing and he's ready to attack. There was only one time I think that Mbappe got the ball in that situation, and it was him running at Kunde. And I said that I had when I saw that I had zero confidence that he was going to beat Kunde in that situation.
mm,
But if it was like 2 years ago and he was running at us, I'd be terrified.
mm,
So it
mm,
just feels like this is a different, at the very least, it's a different player in terms of confidence. I felt.
mm,
So that's the big thing I'll remember from that being at the Bernabeu that night. There was a collective frustration and just disbelief and almost anger might be the right word at Mbappe. And because I felt there was two things that were going on in my head that whole time. Because it was like, okay, we're offside, we're offside, we're offside. We should be up 1 goal. We should be up 2 goals. But then there was like another part of me that was like, hold on. This is how Flick has set up the team. This is what they're good at. They're good at catching teams offside. So should we really be? Should we really have been discrediting their high line the whole time, or should we have been like, no, like this is part of the reason why they're so good is because their defense is holding up because they're of their offside trap. So I had these two opinions conflicting, but then I came to this conclusion like, okay, respect the offside trap and what Barca have done. But what the fuck? You're Kylian Mbappe. You're probably
yeah,
the fastest winger in the world. Just time it better. Like, why are you like? Can't you just start in your own half? Like, you catch up to it. You're Mbappe. Like, so I was like, it was a combination of those two things that I was just like frustrated. But at the end, like when I watched the second half, like, you know, what the fuck was that? I don't know what the fuck that was. That was
have you
horrible.
rewatched the game?
No, I will at some point actually, but no, I haven't yet.
Mm. Yeah, I've not in full extended highlights and particular moments. I've had the pleasure to rewatch, and what you're saying is exactly what I thought. In particular, the impression I was left with the second time around was like, dude, you're one of the fastest, most explosive football players in the world. The reason why Madrid signed you, the reason why you've been so successful, is for making these timely runs. To get caught out that many times was telling to me. And I think the blame that Mbappe is getting is rightly placed because of who he is. That comes when you're a superstar and play for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Um, Nobody can shy away from that. But what I also was just left pondering is how quickly these players, and I'm referring to Barca players, have understood Flick's system, Flick's defensive tactics. Like, how quickly have they picked that up? How do they train that? You know, looking at these players coordinate so well. Pau Cubarsí dropping back just in time. Bang, another offside, another offside. I forget even how many it is. I know that on Barca News, we've been talking about Barca
12.
being the team. No, yeah, I'm talking total. I think we're like on 76 at this point in the season. It was at 64 at some point. Now with these 12 then against Madrid, I thought it was 10 or 12, but it's like, how do you train that? And how are you so consistently good at trapping even the best in the world? Because it's like we can't talk about flukes anymore. We can't talk about little teams or teams with players with less experience. We're beating the best out there. We're beating the Bayerns, the Madrids. City is left, and obviously the English teams. Um, but it's working. Like the system is working right now, and I'm just amazed at how quickly it's been clicking.
Yeah, I now I will be interested to see how teams approach it now, because I think the Real Madrid game was a very good scouting report, because like we already knew about the offside trap.
You knew. We've been talking about it. We kept saying, wait until you face us, or wait until, and you were right to say that.
Right. And by the way, I don't take that back, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, why did you talk about like like exploiting Barca's high line?" Because that was a thing you can exploit, and Real Madrid didn't exploit it. I never said Real Madrid would, but I did say that I think if there is anyone that can, it's Mbappe and Vinny. And I think that's, you know, what happened. What happened, but that was my analysis. But
No, and you're
I,
right, huh?
I think the Real Madrid game is a good case study, because even though we knew about the offside trap heading into it, the Clasico was the one that I think really put the offside trap on the map, in terms of like, holy shit, they they made Mbappe go offside 8 times. Mbappe had 8 of the 12 offsides. This is a ridiculous number.
Wow, yeah.
And so it'll be interesting, like, because to me, there's this, okay, look, if it was easy to exploit the high line, teams would have done it by now. Now, to be fair, I think Osasuna did. And who was the other team? Monaco.
Monaco, yeah.
Villarreal did a couple times, but it wasn't enough to outscore Barca. And that's the other
Mind you,
problem.
Monaco did it against 10 for 90 minutes.
Right.
And Osasuna did it against a completely improvised team where he rotated the squad. But yes.
But I think I think the other problem is that, like, the Villarreal situation was, even though they did exploit it a few times, you can't outscore Barca when they're attacking this efficiently, and Lewandowski's in this kind of form, Rafinha's in this kind of form, and Lamine Yamal's in this kind of form, because they're the hottest front three in Europe. So it's like one conversation, and I don't know if you caught it, but I was speaking to Andreas Laudrup, the son of
Yes,
one of our
I did
favorite
see that.
footballers, Michael
Yes,
Laudrup.
yes, yes.
And we were talking about the Highline initially, and then he said, "Well, hold on, like, it's not just about Barca's Highline. It's just like, look at Barca's attack. You also have to figure that other side of the ball too." Anyway, so long-winded way of saying it, that if teams look at that Real Madrid game, like, how do you exploit the offside trap? Because even if you do, like, Iñaki Peña's very quick off his line, he's playing very, like, you saw, like, Jude recognized that at some point in the second half, tried to like chip him from the halfway line. So
Mhm.
Iñaki Peña is way off his line, because if the offside trap does break, he has to sweep it up. But to me, the solution, and it might be very overly simplified to put it this way, but you just got to start the run on your own half. That way, no matter what happens, you're onside.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
that
true.
that should have been the easy solution, is like, just stay in your own half. If you don't know how to hold your run, just stay in your own half. So it'll be interesting to see, like, once teams now approach Barca on the schedule. I don't even know who your next strong opponent is, but they would have to look at this Real Madrid game and be like, we cannot be offside this many times if we're going to try to exploit that high line. So that'll be interesting. Scouting report was out, but I think it's more out now after the Clasico.
Yeah, I mean, At some point in time, I'm not expecting, of course, these results to keep coming in like this, where we're scoring 4 or 5 goals or 3, 4 goals a game. Just quickly, next is Espanyol, then it's Red Star, and then I'll need to have a look. But I do expect teams to be able to exploit those spaces that are being left in the back and exploit that high line. At some point, this team will the results just can't continue like this, or can they? I mean, I don't. I'm hoping, obviously, that they can, but I'm expecting also this team to be, fitness probably to become an issue. It's There's no question that one of the keys right now for the success of this team is the aggressive press. Uh, Hence my emphasis on fitness once again. Why? Because you need your players, of course, to be at their highest levels of fitness to be able to keep that up, right? That intensity, that where your first defender is your striker. And in the first half, and we saw that against Bayern as well, they had a spell of 15, 20 minutes. We saw Barca suffer. We saw that we were not in the mode, in the zone when it comes to so aggressively and determined hunting that ball down like a team possessed. We saw that Bayern managed to capitalize during that time, equalizing. Madrid didn't capitalize, but what if a Mbappe shot would have gone through Iñaki Peña, and it would have been a 1-0, and it would have been a 1-0. The good thing that I have to compliment this team for is the reaction that we saw against Bayern, where I was commentating that game live, and I felt like, hey, this could very well turn out to be a one-sided, a lopsided affair where Bayern is just going to stick, 2, 3 goals in a first half and leave us completely demoralized, heading into the locker room, head looking down. And I was sort of mentalizing myself ready for a situation like that. I guess part of the euphoria with all culés, with all Barca fan bases, and with me, is to have not seen that and to have seen a very positive reaction, and instead, a blind faith to the game plan. What is the strategy? What have we been working in day out in practices? And that belief, that confidence is also, I think, reflected in what we're seeing from this team when it comes to those kind of reactions in the moment. There's even on a fitness level, I felt like against Madrid, for example, Barca had the edge. In prior seasons, I would sit here as well and I would talk to you about how Madrid just look stronger. They look more athletic. They look, more engaged, more into the game from a fitness approach as well. And I felt like on Saturday that was completely shifted. I felt like Barca were the more informed team, and that probably has an effect physically, but also mentally, right? We talk about confidence and all that, and I think that is that one complements the other. Once when you feel like you in a zone, your body is buzzing. You feel like you can't do it wrong. Uh, you have the edge as well, split second over your opponent. So, and again, that's compliments to Flick. That's compliments to his staff, the fitness guys that he brought in over the summer as well. And I would say, also the fact that Flick has been able to resonate so well with these players, of which the core group know each other. From La Masia, of course. Uh, I think that helps the coach's mission a lot, because once you know that Lewandowski, is already comfortable with Flick. They have a glorious history in Bayern Munich. You know that Flick already commands a certain respect for his achievements at Bayern. But to, on top of that, be able to convince this young crop of players that, hey, I'm here to make you better and believe in this, because with this, we are going to win games and you're going to execute at your highest level. To then actually see that reflected, it's like right now, it's just a perfect formula. Like the equation is just adding up real nice. And like I said, not to be too long-winded, of course I expect there to be some headwinds and challenges where things don't, go wrong, don't go our way. We concede an exaggerated amount of goals. I'm just looking over the schedule right now, Kian. I mentioned Espanyol coming up, then
It's
it's Red
so
Star
easy. I
Belgrade,
j- I looked it up too. I was
Real
like looking
Sociedad.
for something difficult. I couldn't find anything.
eh, Real Sociedad at
Mm,
home is never easy.
not this season.
I don't know about Brest. They seem to be doing good in the Champions League. I don't know if we can put out that candle, but they were up there in the first places last
Look,
time
if
I
you
checked
lose
them.
to a team called Brest, you deserve to lose. That's all
There's
I'll say.
Dortmund in the 11th of
Not
December,
this
and
season easy.
well, that's it then. We can basically just
Atletico
close
at
up shop.
home, just 3 points. I'll give you 3 points right now. I'm pretty sure Simeone is already cashing his Barca check for that one. The only one
There's
that's
Betis.
difficult is not in the league. It's the Supercopa in Oh, that's not in San Mames. God damn, that's in Saudi. So that's not going to be hard for you either. Um,
Well, until we meet again, my friend. I guess we'll see each other in the
no,
Super
you don't
Copa.
have to worry about us this season. Don't worry.
I don't know. Listen, all this stuff as well, man. Like
The only team that can
I'm
stop you
never.
now is the
I'm not
great
one to
Rodri and
defend.
Manchester City.
I'm not one to defend Hail my G, but I feel like I do need to come down with some truths because of this excessive, worrying now that I'm seeing. It's Real Madrid. Look at the squad you guys have. The goals are gonna come, the wins are gonna come.
But
It's a
yeah,
matter of
but
conviction, maybe in Angelotti and
we have
what you
no
guys are actually
defenders, bro.
playing.
We cannot sustain. Our defense is already shit. We have literally two defenders, Rudiger and Militao. They're already going to get run into the ground. Vasquez is the only person who's going to be playing right back from now until the end of the season. We don't have enough bodies to sustain this defensive shambolic mess. We have a lot of attackers, but defensively, I'm worried. We don't have enough bodies. Um, so it's really hard to see. But but I will say, like, and by the way, I co-sign everything about you said about Hansi Flick. He's done an incredible job. It's actually he's a very likable manager. Unfortunately, he's much more likable than Xavi was for Real Madrid fans. So he's done an amazing job. And I think, I guess, if I'm were to look, I don't actually believe this myself, but I just it's just something that I'm just gonna say out loud because it's in my head. It'll be interesting to see the reaction of both these teams after this because I feel like there's something weird about Real Madrid, and it's like when they're at their most kind of like down moments,
Mhm.
they tend to surprise and flip scripts.
I agree. Seen it.
I don't think, but there are a lot of people who are like, maybe we needed this. I don't believe that. I think this is not something we needed. Like this, I do not believe that for one bit. I also know that behind the scenes things are not well.
Mm.
And it's not like the years past under Ancelotti when there's this whole friendship thing happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of tension behind the scenes, and this Clasico stuff only will bring that more tension. I don't think there's a rallying point from the Clasico itself, but I do think there might be a rallying point because of the Vinny Ballon d'Or thing. That might actually be like a little chip on the shoulder now, more so than the Clasico, I think. But it'll be interesting to see how both teams kind of react to this because, like, as we know, like this Barca team looks great. I don't think it's far fetched to say they might be the best team in Europe based on performances this season. Um, it'll be interesting to see what the conversation is like after this because uh,
What is you got to spill the beans, son. You can't give us a little nugget like that and then not
no, I
spill the
can't. I
beans.
can't spill the beans because for a couple of reasons. One is that the person who told me is going to be the one who's going to be spilling the beans, and it's not my place to do that before that
Is
person
it
does.
is it beans that I was alluding to at the beginning of the season? Is it ego
I don't
beans?
remember what that was.
Is it
It's kind of, but I think it's less so with. the players and more so the club and the players.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Not really
Um.
surprised,
Yeah.
but I'll
So
be interested to read that article.
yeah. Um. But yeah, I don't know. I
The reaction, and look, I think beans aside, which could impact the season and the team dynamics. I think the way I see it is Madrid is about, and based on what you said, you're assigning an Edgar Davids away from being a functional team in that case. Maybe not Edgar Davids
yeah.
because it's not, or yes, I mean, I know you guys are still crying about Tony Cruz, and now you're mentioning your defensive mess. So whether it's a wing back, whether it's a holding midfielder, but that one signing that could turn this team around, surely. Because I mean, look at your squad again. I reiterate that point.
But that hasn't clicked yet with our squad. Like it
But that's
hasn't.
on Ancelotti then as well.
It's on a lot of people, including Ancelotti. Like if you're like looking at the Clasico diagnosis, for example, it's not his fault that Mbappe couldn't hold his runs. It's not his fault that Vinny and
Mm.
Jude and Mbappe all missed sitters.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it is his fault for getting outcoached heavily in the second half.
Mm,
Like
mm.
the way Barca came out, the way Real Madrid came out, and then the subs for both teams. I thought we didn't mention this, but I thought the Frankie sub was great. Danny
Great.
Olmo, as soon as he came in, was an
Change things.
absolute menace.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
that coincided with Ancelotti taking out Camavinga and Tchouameni, which mean our any defense in midfield we had was gone. Like it was just getting worse and worse with the subs. So like he got heavily outcoached in the second half. He's also been stating multiple times every press conference, we need to improve defensively, and you need to improve defensively. We need to improve defensively. Cool. I don't want to hear these words anymore. I'm sick of hearing these words. And I love Carlo. I really do. He's abuelo. But he's got like we got to see some of these things in action, like not just in theory and in practice. The press has not improved in years.
Yeah.
Years.
For sure. Years.
Like
Yeah.
it's you look at some of the sequences. I'm rewatching a lot of this stuff now for a column, and I was rewatching the Celta game this morning, and I'm going to go through Dortmund. But like none of these defensive sequences make any sense at all. Like someone decides to press randomly, and then the whole team has no idea what to do when that person does
Yeah.
that. It's just like, oh,
No
okay, now free
coordination.
guy here, free guy here. Yeah, there's no coordination defensively. Sometimes we hold a high line, which makes no sense because we're not pressing. So it's the worst place to be in football. It's no man's land. We have so many of these weird defensive sequences. Um, and last season, I think was great for a large stretch. There was a lot of great reinventions from Carlo Ancelotti. Like when we lost Tchouameni and Camavinga, he went with that Cruz Fede double pivot, which did wonders. We lost Vinny due to injury. We lost an entire back line. We had ACL injuries. Benzema was sold. We didn't replace him. And we won a ton of games, but that also was because Jude Bellingham went into hero ball mode. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know what would
Mhm.
have happened to us if he didn't go into that crazy
Yeah.
mode. Also, the fact that Jude hasn't scored yet, I don't really have a problem with that in theory because it's not really his job to do that. Like that's why we signed Mbappe. That's why we have Vinny. Jude can do deeper roles. But last game against Barca, Jude was playing like a right back behind Lucas Vasquez. So the thing with Jude is like no matter where he plays, he's going to be amazing. He'll do good work. He'll work his ass off defensively. He'll do whatever he needs to do wherever he is. But are you maximizing that? There's just a lot of like I think that scene in Spider-Man, like the original, the Tobey Maguire one. Did you ever see
Mhm.
those?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
that? Remember that scene in one of those Tobey Maguire ones where he has to stop a train
Yeah.
and he has like spidey webs on both hands and he's trying to hold it before it falls over the bridge. I feel like we just have a lot of players doing that for our team, like just trying to hold it together by themselves, and that is not sustainable. It's not
Mm.
sustainable. So, look, you and I have had this conversation so many times before about Ancelotti. It's like there's a conversation we have about it mid-season after a bad loss, and then there's a conversation at the end of the season when Real Madrid wins
That's right.
titles.
Yeah.
And so it's like this revolving roller coaster of
That's right.
This looks terrible, but in the
That's
end, he
right.
has a trophy,
Yeah.
so
So
we
you
can't
gotta
really
just
criticize. You got to like give benefit of the doubt. But I, you
that has
know,
been my criticism as well of this.
that's
Just
right.
like I spoke about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And also, um, he is a difficult manager to analyze for that reason because he is riddled with so many of these things in his career. He has, I think, all but one time has never repeated as a champion back to back in the
Mm-hmm.
league.
Mm-hmm.
And but then he has just so much ridiculous success and accomplishments that there's a low floor and a high ceiling with him that I think makes it difficult for people to measure him accurately. And I do think it's a fair criticism to say like he never wins back to back titles. And maybe I don't know the reason why. A lot of these things can get solved with new signings in some ways because new players come in, they're more hungry. Sometimes bellies are full, complacency kicks in. This is a huge thing also with like this is why I don't really care about awards and press conferences. I remember, you know, this happened with Zidane a lot too. Like they would just this whole second half FC thing with Real Madrid. Not that the Clasico was a terrible example because it was the opposite. The second half they were terrible, but generally speaking, like you look at that Dortmund game, the variance between what the first half was and the second half was inexplicable. Like it was the lowest of lows of the worst performances in the first half, and then the second half was just something that it looked like all of a sudden it was like Brazil 1970s versus my high school team, and they just went to that gear.
Yeah.
And Zidane would always say in his press conferences, like this is a thing, an issue that's been happening for years. Zidane would always say, "We need to start better. We need to start better." After every press conference, he would say this, and of course, what would happen, even though they knew it, they wouldn't start better. And so sometimes, like, um, you need to give opportunities to players that are hungry. And I think that, what you asked me earlier, what was like being at the Burnabout, I distinctly remember one scene that I didn't mention. After Endrick was warming up for the entire half, and it was like 3 or 4 nil at that point, Ancelotti just told him to go sit down. We're done. And it's like, okay, like I understand Endrick's not a Ballon d'Or level player or anything like that. Not right now. He's very raw. But the guy just comes in and fucks shit up at least. Like give him like see what he can do.
Mm.
Um, I don't think Arda Güler warmed up that game. I I don't. This goes back to a conversation you and I had, and you were right actually. You were like, does Ancelotti trust Güler? And at that point, I think Güler was playing quite a bit, relatively anyway. Um, so these are all just things that are on my mind, just kind of verbalizing them all.
I'm surprised that we haven't heard more from the Guler camp, to be honest. I'm sure that you on Twitter
I think we
will
will soon.
hear a lot more. I think we will. I don't think that they will stay silent. I was already surprised this summer, based on what we were hearing, sort of the word around the campfire about Guler's impatience and disgruntledness for his lack of playing time. Then coming off of the Euros, where he's the best player of his national side, and goes into a locker room where again he just kind of falls in whatever level tier he is in the pecking order, but obviously behind the veteran slash star players, more established players or trusted players by Angelotti. And we haven't seen him. I was pretty surprised to see he ranked second in the Ballon d'Or because not never
Oh,
I've
and what is
never
it? The Copa,
the
the
Copa,
Copa.
yeah, sorry, the Copa
He was
award, yeah.
second.
He was second behind Lamine, yeah. And I'm like, wow,
I
that
think. I mean, that's. I would have
but
had him top three. That's not too crazy to me.
yeah, I think talent wise, there's no discussion. But seeing what his production, although great for the little minutes, it's like he hadn't played. He hasn't played that much. Still good on him. Kudos for ranking second. I think again he's a very very talented player. I was when I found out about him and was learning about him over the summer last summer. sorry, 2 summers ago now, of course. Yeah, he seemed like the real deal and a very exciting player, and we see glimpses of it in Madrid and over the Euros. But mm, I know I was in the the pre Clasico pod. I was saying to our listeners, I wonder how badly Kiyan is hoping that Guler is going to cut the starting 11 instead of Rodri, all the while knowing, and I'm referring to you knowing that Angelotti will just never do that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's not like a. I don't care that he doesn't start over Rodrigo because I really like Rodrigo,
no, but now obviously
but I'd
Rodri
like
wasn't
him to get
available.
more opportunities because I think he deserves. I mean, Rodrigo he was injured, like he didn't even play
That's what I'm saying.
Clasico.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
like
So
if that
what
doesn't
I
open
said
up
was,
some room for
if
him, then
exactly my point.
yeah,
So I was saying, in the absence of Rodrigo, I wonder how badly you want him to play,
right. I see
knowing
what you're
that he
saying.
won't.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. I mean, I didn't have an issue with him not starting that game because I think Kamavinga. I mean, Kamavinga is the one I would have started, and he was great in that first half. But but for him to not get a look when you desperately need someone to help you,
Mm,
um,
yeah.
and you're throwing the kitchen sink and taking off all your defensive midfielders anyway. So like what? So these are all things. And I honestly, and you know me, I actually like Ceballos more than most. But there was I think was it the which game was it recently that Ceballos came in over Goulet also? Was it
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Celta?
yeah.
And like I
Mm.
just don't know if I really have any interest long term in developing a player like Ceballos, but I do in Arda Güler. Well, he's like almost 30.
No, no, it's just you were president of Ceballos fan club.
I still am. Like I have my stock still. I haven't cashed in yet.
You haven't sold that.
I haven't sold my Ceballos back
You're
yet.
still bullish on Ceballos, but
But
just
I don't know if like he brings more to the table than Arda Güler right now. I don't think he does.
mm, mm. Listen, Holmes. I've got family coming over for a dinner, a farewell dinner.
Okay.
My family just walked through the door, but I didn't want to leave our audience disappointed with at least quickly. I said yesterday on part one of the post Classico pod, I said this whole Balón de Oro thing, I don't want to touch it with a 6 foot pole. And then I did
Why not?
end up. It's just like it's just got abuse coming my way, like guaranteed. It's gonna get messy because things that I say will be taken out of context. Again,
Great.
let
Those
me
go viral. We have that the one remember the clip of me saying Real Madrid are 95% of Barcelona's reality.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course
yeah,
I
yeah,
was exaggerating greatly because I knew
yeah,
what was
yeah.
going to happen. That's that's done well over 1 million views now on socials. It's
Jesus,
at over 600, it's almost at 700K on IG,
wow.
however many on TikTok and YouTube, and it's just endless Kool-Aid fighting with Madridistas. And then after the 4-0, of course, all the Kool-Aids came back, right? And it's just going strong. Like it's just
That's incredible. That.
so don't worry about getting taken out of context. It's great marketing.
All right, right, right.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'll just be brief, and then we can exchange blows or talking points. Um, Rodri and Vini, and in my opinion, Carvajal, and you could even throw Bellingham in there, but I think he's 4. I'll keep it to 3. For me, any of these 3 could have won, and it would have been no issue with me. As in, like I wouldn't have been surprised. I wouldn't have been upset. I wouldn't have felt any other way. I would have felt, look, based on their achievements that season, individually, collectively, they deserve it. There was not one standout. This was not a Messi year. We don't have a Messi Cristiano battle where there's just a clear one or two standout player. That's not the case in this post Messi era, post Messi Cristiano era. Um, so Vinny, you got to give him the league and the Champions League domestically. I think Vinny outshines, outperforms Rodri from a club perspective. I mean, right? Hope you're catching what I'm saying.
Hmm.
On an international level, the Euros clearly played heavily in favor for Rodri being in the discussion. Uh, his season with City as well, winning the league. They're different players, so their statistics are going to be different in terms of what happens in the final third. I think Vinny had a fine season there. If I seem to remember, and I brought this up yesterday, and you'll be able to confirm it, I don't think that it was Vinny's best season from a statistical point, but a good season nonetheless. Rodri's season, it goes beyond just numbers, but also from that perspective, I think he's had a great season. I tried to screenshot. I was coming over, and it was, one of those. Yes, I did catch it. I just saw it before, kind of the tweet, the ¿cómo se llama esto? The wall of tweets, like the page refreshed, but I screenshotted it. Anyway, it's comparing Rodri's and Modric season where Modric won the Balón de Oro and this season now where Rodrigo won the Balón de Oro. And it's, in terms of, they talk about goals, assists, titles won. And Rodrigo, compared to that Modric season, had has had a better season. I guess they're tweeting this or bringing this up because a lot of people are sort of slamming the fact that Rodrigo for City wasn't as impactful, wasn't as influential. Look, I'm the first one to tell you that I'm not an avid Premier League watcher, so I can't vouch for the season Rodrigo has had. I can just echo what I see take place in the Spanish national side. I know of his importance there, of his leadership, of his qualities. And I would imagine, just based on what the experts, how they talk about Rodrigo and what terms, that he has that similar presence and importance for City. All that to say. Then it comes that, so internationally, Rodrigo, club level, Vinny. So what other measure are these players what other criteria are these players measured by then? What's the final criteria? What is the final thing that tipped the scale in Rodrigo's favor? And I think that is the one that probably is the most controversial, the one that people get the most heated over, the one that on radio stations they are discussing the most, and that is probably that third fairness element. I don't know if you caught wind of that, but they said that basically this year the final criteria in terms of fairness being a showing sportsmanship, conducting yourself as a gentleman, if you will, on the pitch. They say that is what eventually tipped the scale in favor of Rodrigo.
How much time you got, bro? Um, there's a few things. Um, by the way, just quickly, since we're talking about sportsmanship, just thought I'd bring this up. I think personally the sportsmanship thing is complete bullshit. That's just my opinion. I think
But Kiyan, you know how many I can bring up of those of Vinny. So
yeah, of course, but I don't think I think so many players do so much bullshit on the field, and with Vinny we always twist it and never show like what happens before Vinny reacts to something. It's almost never him provoking, and a lot of this is just media driven. You and I don't agree on
can't.
this,
I
and
can't.
that's okay. But in almost every case, you bring up a video or footage of Vinny, I can bring up the part where it was cut off right before that, where Vinny is reacting to something else. But that aside, we're not going to agree on that. That's fine. I think there's a few different things here happening at the same time. One is that I think with Real Madrid's case, it actually hurt them to have so many players deserving of this award because it was Vinny, Carvajal, Jude, and Cruz, those four. And so some of the votes got split. Now I actually haven't gone and seen everyone who voted for, like, what everyone voted and how it actually got distributed, but I did think that hurt them a little bit. Another thing, there's like this, when you talk about international legacies or international kind of criteria, and that was maybe the differentiator. First of all, I don't think being like a top 5 player for your national team trumps winning the Champions League and La Liga and being absolutely instrumental in those tournaments for your team, and also scoring in the Champions League final and scoring in the knockouts. Like, that just does not trump. Like, so I like, you think you will say that it was subjective and it could have been this or that, and I don't agree with you, but that's okay. Like, I think this particular, the last 2 awards, like, objectively, the winners did not deserve it. Messi and Rodri.
For winning a World Cup, you don't deserve it.
Well, but that was a year before the Ballon d'Or. Like, it's not even in the same year. He was like in MLS at that point.
No, but that was because that World Cup took place in the winter. Like, it accounted for the full calendar year, did it not? That was my understanding.
Ooh, but didn't 2000, so I have to revisit it, but didn't 2022, I thought it was just a separate year completely. If that's true, then I'll concede the point. But the 2022, was that weird year where they didn't have a Ballon d'Or winner, or was that the year
No, that
before?
was COVID. That was COVID. That's like
So
2020, if I'm not mistaken.
who won the 2000?
21.
Oh, no, well, oh yeah, 2022. Benzema won it, of course. Yeah, he deserved to win that. But that was just, that's to me that, but that doesn't make any sense, Diego, because the 2022 World Cup was, if they were to put it in a season, it would go in the summer before, wouldn't it?
But it was in the winter.
Yeah, I know, but then the calendar year ended, and then the 2023
Right,
started.
but because then you're skip. Look, not to do like mental gymnastics here, but Messi winning at the end of that calendar year, I guess you could argue, well, they prized him then for an achievement a few days prior to the actual calendar year starting, right? Is that the point you're trying to make?
Whatever goalposts they had to shift for that one, fine. Um, but with regards to the international thing and that being the trump card for Rodri, this is the point that Real Madrid were making when I spoke to them yesterday. That if it's based on international, then it should just be Carvajal. He's won everything.
Yeah. Well, that's why I mentioned him. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so here's the other thing. And of course, like, nothing really adds up to, because like, if you look at how the voting is distributed, and then once you get down, like, Tony Cruz was not the 9th best player in the world, but of course, like, once you start voting, like, some people vote maybe Cruz 2, 3, whatever, and then then the math just maybe puts him at 9. It really doesn't matter. But
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
that's ridiculous. I like, to draw parallels with that real quick, Kiyan. Busquets never cracked the top 10 in all of his career. Busquets winning 2 trebles, winning World
yeah,
Cups, Euro.
that's why, like, really outside of the top 3, I don't think it matters
Right.
that much, because the way the voting just, they start to tally up, like, okay, how many points did you have for finishing second, third, etc. And then so it didn't, like, the list after that is not really an accurate reflection of the actual order. But the main issue, I think, that Real Madrid had, and hence why they did not attend, and then that's a whole different discussion whether they should have attended or not.
Yeah.
But the whole actual thing, I think, is less to do with Vinicius not winning, and more so that there is a belief and a case, and you're the conspiracy theorist, not me. So this is your expertise. You would have to chime in on this one, whether you rank this as a viable conspiracy or not. And maybe because it's not Barcelona, you will not jump in on the conspiracy train on this one. But the conspiracy is that if you look at the order, the top 10 that was predicted, everything was 100% accurate apart from the top 2. And up until 24 hours before this whole mess, there seemed to be a switch between 1 and 2. and that everyone knew that it was Vinny, and then all of a sudden, the only people that were informed that it was Rodri was Manchester City. And Manchester City are the ones who communicated to Real Madrid that Vinny is not winning it, Rodri is. Just heads up. And so,
No shit. Why would they do that?
why would who do that? Manchester City?
Why would City? Yeah. Why would they reach out to another club and let them know, hey,
Probably
your
out of
boy's not?
respect, because the theory is that they wanted Real Madrid to be humiliated in front of everybody, like to say like, and Vinny was expecting it, and then all of a sudden Rodri was going to get it.
But then you're giving Carlo the best coach award and the Madrid the best team award.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, not everything. I mean, it would be hard to take that away from Carlo last year, given that he won the domestic double. You can't give it to Luis de la Fuente because that's like the only thing he did, as great as he
Hey,
was.
again, to chime in here with a little parallel, there was robbery on Highway 59 in the women's category with Jonathan Giraldez not getting the coach of the year, and it was what's her name, the Chelsea coach instead, that lost in the final. Showed anything but sportsmanship. Here's a little a little add on for that conspiracy to those say that it was sportsmanship that let it slip for Vinny, because after the final she talked about robbery. She was had anything but sportsmanlike conduct. Yet she got coach of the year. Barca won a historic quadruple, the women's team, the first one in history, domestic treble and the Euros. And so my point is like they gave it to Carlo. They gave Madrid the best team of the year.
Yeah, but so this is the point I actually made to the club. I said, I think you might be wrong at mad at the wrong person, because if it's a matter of Vinny should have won it, you should be upset about the journalists for voting this way. Like, did you see that guy from El Salvador who didn't have Vinny in the top 10?
I did not know.
So like, and I don't know how to solve that issue, because I don't like when you give like every single country in the world a vote. It's like at
Well,
that
it's
point,
100, right?
it's 100 countries,
100
isn't it not?
countries. Yeah.
So it's like at that point, like, is this the most fair way of doing it? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it were up to me, I would like pick the five journalists who I trust the most to be objective about it. But of course, the world doesn't work that way. Like, no matter what you do, I think the system is not going to be perfect. But what I said to the club was, shouldn't you be mad at the journalists for this incompetence of the way they voted?
Mm.
But I don't think that was the issue. The issue was that there seems to have been a switch because of, and I don't know if did you see Clarence Seedorf's quote at the ceremony yesterday?
No, I saw him say that he thought that Vinny deserved it, but what I might have missed something else. What did he say?
This was the exact quote, because I don't want to get it wrong or put words in Seedorf's mouth. As you know, that might get you in trouble. I don't know if you saw Luis Figo yesterday on Twitter.
No.
And I actually don't know the backstory behind this, because I didn't actually watch the video of what he said in the actually said, but apparently there was this quote from the red carpet where he said the Ballon d'Or is good, or I'm paraphrasing, whatever the word he used, up until today. And I guess some aggregator accounts, and also I think As also quoted that, and apparently he's saying that's not what he said, and he was like threatening. Like, you could see him, like he was like texting, like during the ceremony, sitting in his chair, he was like blocking people. He was threatening to sue accounts. It was hilarious.
Wow.
So I'm gonna see if I can dig up the exact Seedorf quote so I don't get sued, which I so he says, okay, this was the Seedorf quote yesterday from the Ballon d'Or ceremony. He says, it seems, sorry, bear with me. Okay, here it is. I think Vinicius deserves this award. It seems that there is something between Real Madrid and UEFA that seems to be unresolved. The problems between Real Madrid and UEFA should be kept outside of these matters. It's a shame. So it's like, I don't know if he knew something, but it felt like he was alluding to like he knew something. And also, it was very interesting to see the reaction of so many players on Twitter after this. Like they waited until Rodri was announced, and then they all had their tweet ready to go, like schedule basically. Like,
Yeah, totally.
so
I don't know, but in going down that line, then I mean, UEFA has been on Barca's ass for several years now. The whole Negreira case, where Tebas brought
that's a La Liga
false
thing.
evidence to UEFA. No, no, no. UEFA's been getting involved with that too, and saying that they're gonna wait for the judge to hold down or make a
Bro,
statement
can
on
I
this.
say
And these
something,
things.
bro? This I like. I've been so respectful this entire podcast. When Barca tweeting that bullshit up, like we're so happy to be here, is like, come on,
My
man.
boy Mike, my boy Mikey. I texted him about that. But no, listen, I mean, UEFA's not going to throw any bones Barca's direction neither. We're, in that regard, still hand in hand with Madrid in terms of the Super League and the whole shitstorm that has been surrounding Barca from a financial perspective, that UEFA's been handing out fines for Barca with regards to that topic. Again, the Negreira case. So I don't know. Look, tell me, should Madrid have gone or not?
My initial feeling was that they should have attended. But at the same time, I don't know if there was this actual thing that happened behind the scenes that UEFA switched it. But the thing is, I don't know if that'll ever be proven if that were to be true. But if that were true, like I would understand that situation that they would feel disrespected and not attend at all.
Mm.
Um, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll put it that way because there was a lot of bullshit from the Ballon d'Or saying that it's impossible. Nobody knows who the winner is. Only me and one other person. Only two people know in the world. Like, come on, bro. Everybody knew, obviously. Like, obviously they knew. So that's not true. Like, I don't know. I don't really trust UEFA to look. It's not like this is Real Madrid versus Mother Teresa. It's UEFA. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like
Yeah.
this. There were also
Well,
reports that
mm,
that Nike knew, and Nike was informed by France Football that Vinny was going to win, and so there was a whole campaign ready to go with that too, and Vinny had everything planned. For by all accounts, they were informed that Vinny was going to win, and they got the top 10 predicted bang on, and the only two that were not accurate were the top two. So I'm look, I'm not putting it past you if that's something happening, and if it did, I completely understand Real Madrid's situation for not going. Also, I don't really care if people attend or not. Um, you know, so I'll just say that as well. Like when every year there is a bunch of big profile names that are not in attendance, and
yeah,
then
it's
it
the
becomes a
reason though
story.
for it's the reason for not attending. I
But
mean,
this was different because it was an entire club. It wasn't just a
yeah.
player or two. So it was a
Mm,
little bit. It was an official stance
mhm.
against UEFA. So um,
Well, look, it rounded off just a perfect week for Barca fans. I'm not gonna deny that. It's been very entertaining. It's been yeah, I got a kick out of it. I can't I can't deny. I mean, as you can imagine, if was tables were turned the other way, Madridistas will be lapping this up, and rightfully so. It's been amusing.
we
To
have a super chat. I know you're trying to leave,
Okay,
but I would feel very awful if we missed the super chat.
okay.
Pranav Jadhov says thoughts on Madrid lamenting the racist chants and helping identify them. Vinny criticizing it, but Lamine Yamal says he doesn't care about it.
Uh, Go. I mean, is it what my thoughts? Or?
I mean, what are my thoughts on this? I think the behavior from those fans was abhorrent. I think I'm glad Real Madrid identified them quickly. I hope heavy bans, and I personally I'd rather do lifetime bans than like 3 game bans or 1 year bans. I think there's no tolerance for it. Um, Vinny criticizing it, standing up. I was happy he did that as well. Lamine Yamal saying he doesn't care about it. I have no strong opinion about that. In that he is
Pranav. how are
He
we
can,
gonna have strong opinions about this? Like, isn't that up to Lamin to decide? And
yeah, that's the thing.
who are
Like
we to say Lamin should react this way? I think whichever way.
I don't think that Pranav is stating that he should have reacted some way. I don't think that I didn't interpret it this way. But maybe because he didn't say anything about it, he can
Yeah,
react however he wants. He's dealing with it however he feels best for him to deal with it. If he did react strongly and be upset about it, I would absolutely support that
right,
too. It's up to
right.
him to feel however he wants to feel.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I think whether it's Lamin saying he doesn't care, he knows that these people are idiots and doesn't want to give them the time of day or the protagonism or just focus on the game. Uh, then I 100% respect that. If it's a Dani Alves that picks up a banana off the floor and eats it, chucks it away, and that became a little bit of a viral craze, like a fight against racism, then I support that. If it's an Eto that walks off the field, or a Vinny that points, gets the referee over and points out the culprit, then I think that we should do that as well. Where we should respect, however we need to tackle this to eradicate this. I think is the right way to go about it. But I'm not somebody here that is going to tell a 17-year-old kid who's been dealing with this probably his entire life so far and will have to encounter and endure this, unfortunately, in more places, to deal with it one way or another. I'm not anybody to lecture or impose lessons on this topic to people of color. So I just support it. The people fighting against it, that is, I want to see this eradicated. It was unfortunate. More clips have come out. It's no surprise to me that these things happen. I've heard it myself. I hear it here. I hear it there. It's something that I think I've been vocal about, that the Bernabeu is not an isolated case of where it doesn't happen. Not at all. We all know how the people vote in La Comunidad de Madrid, the people in Madrid, and how the background of Real Madrid. So this shouldn't come as a surprise. It's always been present, and that was always what I was trying to say. I'm happy now that it's more public, more open, and that we're taking a proactive stance to stop and eradicate this from the game of football. It's disgusting. It makes me sad. But if Lamin wants to just, what did he do? He kind of like smirked through a wink and then continued to kill it. Then so be it. As long as these people are held accountable, then I'm happy that Real Madrid put out that statement. I'm happy that Vinny did in solidarity. I want to see La Liga act upon this as well, like we saw on previous occasions. I want to know if Tebas and La Liga are taking actions to
I think they
deal
did.
with this accordingly. Yeah. Okay.
They took the step to the action, or
Right.
I
I
didn't
read
travel the
that,
last
yeah, but I
24
haven't
hours,
heard
but
anything
they brought
since
it.
then. Yeah.
They presented the evidence towards the disciplinary committee.
The disciplinary, right.
Yeah.
So, let's keep up the good fight. This is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Diego, tell everyone where they can find us at the end of the week.
You see it right here, scrolling down the bottom of your screens, patreon.com/churros y tácticas. That is, yes, indeed, where we post all of this goodness, plus a little extra for those that want to support this humble little podcast. And a little extra, we've got a Patreon edition coming to you guys at the end of this week. So don't miss out. Like I said, I posted a whole bunch of content on there. Kiyan, I'm curious to know your thoughts as well, because I did get a little experimental during the international break and put a little bit of content in there that is very different from what Churros usually is about.
I just assumed it was very Barca heavy content, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's I kind of went creative and did a little. It's a 3-minute clip. Just have a look and then let me know.
All right, we'll do. All right,
Alrighty,
guys.
folks.
Thank you for bearing with us in the last month. Thank you to Diego for holding it down. Congrats to Barca on their impending treble. Dark days in Real Madrid universe. The Galactico 3.0's big failure. Failed. All right, guys. See you over on patreon.com/churrositactica. Send in questions if you're a patron too as well, and we'll hit them up Thursday or Friday. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.